Okay, I think we're live.
We are.
Everybody here? All right, perfect.
Little
What's
false
going
Even though
on?
it tried to run the countdown
Yeah,
twice, we
sorry
are
for the
here.
countdown.
little delay
That
game.
didn't quite go exactly the way it worked. Also, it's
I didn't realize there wasn't any sound. We
we're still
transparency, folks.
doing
We
yeah.
transitioned to some new technology. We're still working out some of the weird kinks that are
Also,
in
didn't
here.
change the title from the last time. Forgot about that. Here we go. We're rolling. I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody gets it. I'm sure everybody gets it. What's going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I am joined by my two usual co-hosts. We've got Mr. Kyle Henning at the top right of the screen making his return. How we doing tonight, Kyle?
I'm alive. I have a headache from all hell, but I'm alive, and it's mostly because the weather in this state is schizophrenic at best, and it hates me, and I don't like it. But other than that, we're doing fine. We've got off-season talk and more off-season talk and more off-season talk because all there is off-season talk. This is the football zone of where Tom gets to nerd out about draft picks, and then there's nothing else to really discuss other than that. So we're doing things. It's going to be interesting. We're currently the Chiefs are in there fill out the 90-man roster with God knows what and how much and how they're going to work out. But hey, let's try camp bodies and see what happens. So it's where we're at in the cycle of how this NFL. We've been doing this long enough now as a group. We all know what this is. So, but it's still good to get here and get talking to everybody and have all of you nice folks join us at later than usual on a Friday because, well, A, it's the off season, and B, it's a Friday, and this is what we got for you. So
yeah, that's what we got. Also joining us, of course, Thomas Pike, Mr. Arrowhead Tom. How we doing tonight, Tom?
Listen, I got a little I feel like there's a little shade thrown at the off season. This is a good time of the year, my friends. This is the merriest time of the year. This is the
no,
time
no,
where
that's
families
December,
come together
sir.
and celebrate, and you create memories. And no, I love the draft. Trying out the new camera angle. I think it makes the beard look real good, real imposing.
Yeah.
Got the light in the background. My head blocks a little bit, so some of that like a little extra brightness that we've. I'm liking it. I'm liking it so far.
I do gotta say, you don't look like you're not glowing like a demon like you were a couple of times ago when you had the other camera angle with that red light that was just
Shout out to Garrett for the idea, and it was a simple one. Just move the camera down, angle up, and here we are.
Yep. One of these days, I'll get rid of my halo light, so I'll stop looking like I'm gonna.
They will really look like a professional operation around here, but for now, we're just gonna.
Eventually,
yeah. But hey, we're doing what we can. We're just here to have a good time. All right, so that's what we're here to do tonight. We have a good little episode hopefully for you tonight. We'll hang out with you tonight and hopefully maybe answer some questions in the YouTube or I don't know if X will let you comment or not, but we'll see.
Should be able to. I'm getting ready to test that out, as a matter of fact, here in a second. So
as we're still testing this new studio, but so yeah, basically, topic of tonight, we are going to be diving into the Chiefs roster as it stands. Like Kyle alluded to, the Chiefs have been signing a lot of guys, some notable, some not as notable, some familiar faces making their returns that we'll talk about, and just a whole lot of movement that the Chiefs have made so far preparing for the NFL draft. So we're going to break it down, kind of figure out what positions are still in need, what positions the Chiefs have covered, and we'll kind of correlate that with how it'll fit in with how the draft is stacked and where the Chiefs are picking at. Because the Chiefs have a decent amount of picks this year, especially in that top 3 rounds. It's looking pretty good for them. So we'll see. We'll see how they go. Obviously, there's still some time before the draft to make later acquisitions, maybe a big trade. We've seen a couple draft week trades from the Chiefs in recent memory. Frank Clark and Orlando Brown, I believe, were both traded just a week before the draft. So,
dog, if we would have traded for Orlando Brown, I'd have been a lot happier than getting his son. But yes, go ahead. I understand what you.
Yeah, you get it. You were Orlando Brown.
Yes, that was a shot at Orlando Brown Jr. because his daddy was way better than he is and was. So
Yeah. He was. I mean, hey, Orlando Brown Jr. also a dog for us.
I'm just poking. Tom loved Orlando from the second that was even an option. He
That was
was
Tom's
hammering
guy.
that gravy train, and Orlando Brown Jr. Full disclosure was just fine for us when he was here. It was just not going to
This
be
is a whole
paying
night of
him
Kyle
Well,
taking pot shots
$25 million.
left and right.
So
Kyle's just a pot shot machine.
I don't.
they
I
tried to
guess,
pay him, Tom, and then he turned it down and took less money to play for the Bengals. I don't know what to say.
no. Your original statement. I'm trying to. I don't think it's explicitly against the rules. But maybe just found them. I don't think you could trade draft picks for corpses.
I knew where you were going with that.
That's somehow where we ended up with that one. Huh?
That's a little dark, but it's also
you guys
accurate. Yeah,
to impress me every time.
Unfortunately, rest in peace to the original Orlando Brown. He did pass away. I think not too terribly long after his playing
how
career.
is this happening? What's happening right now? Hello.
Well, you see, it's the off season, Garrett, and sometimes things get a little wonky in the off season.
How did y'all? This is all right. Listen, we're doing a great time. Appreciate y'all for joining us tonight. Yeah, we're gonna.
You do have to remember Tom is also a comedian in his spare time. So
Tom
there
is
are some times.
Yeah, that's very good. Tom, when's the next comedy special coming out?
Yeah, that's a good question. When are you doing your next little local gig set up?
I need to get back on stage soon.
I get back on stage.
It will happen.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Well,
it's been busy, so.
Well, we all know how that goes. Garrett, you said something about familiar faces. Why don't you run through the familiar faces they've kind of reintroduced themselves to here?
Well, yeah, most recently, Kyle, the Chiefs brought back Mike Edwards on a 1-year deal. He was with the team 2 years ago, part of that Super Bowl 57 run. That was he was a pretty instrumental part of. I mean, pretty solid player for us. Wish we would have re-signed him last year. He would have been a good depth piece in that safety room, but we ended up drafting Jaden Hicks. Now with Justin Reed's departure, we signed Mike Edwards back. Good signing. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Good signing.
So he came in and played pretty big snaps in that 57 run because we lost a safety to, I believe, injury at one point. He was kind of that third safety box safety.
Went down.
When Brian went down with his injury and whatnot, like that was a big deal for him to come in and be competent at the safety position.
Yeah.
And, it's a really young position for this team. Like, the most veteran safety in that room, not named Mike Edwards, is like Bryant Cook, I think. So, like that's but Deion Bush also spent 3 years on the practice squad and not on the main roster. So when it comes to like actual veteran games played, games he participated, it's Bryant Cook at the head of that leadership group of the age wise, and he's only in his third year. This will be year 4. Something like that. So not exactly an old group with Justin Reed's departure and whatnot. So he provides depth. He provides leadership. He's that old guy that can, sometimes when you're new to the league, like Jaden Hicks is going to have a much bigger role this year, like way bigger role, as evidenced by the fact that they let Justin Reed walk. And with that, he's going to see things he's never seen before. And so having that guy in the locker room, even if he's not playing more than 25% of the snaps, if that, he might not even get that many snaps per game. But somebody to talk to, somebody that's been there, that's seen it, that knows this SPAG system, that's been around it, that can also come in and make, spell you if you need him to in certain situations or certain things. It's just nice to have that, and he's not expensive by any stretch of the imagination. So as long as he can stay healthy through camp, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that he's going to be that third or fourth safety depth, but he's the vet, so he's probably going to be kind of helping still with all the young guys and all the different stuff. And you may see people move back around, like Nazi may find himself back in that safety room more than the corner room, which I think would probably benefit him.
It would.
So, because they did re-sign Nazi, like a couple weeks ago.
Well, they tendered him, didn't they?
Whatever. He's going to be in camp at minimum. So,
yeah.
But it just gives you a little more in that room that you didn't have from a veteran leadership experience. Because Jane Hicks is going to need somebody to ask questions to and bounce stuff off of, and Brian Cook still
Yeah.
probably does too in some instances. Because again,
Yeah.
he's not been in the league that long. None of these guys have in that room, so I like it. I also like it that he's, like I said, Mike's not going to be, bank breaking contract. It's probably one of the veteran exception contracts, if I were guessing.
Mhm.
I haven't seen details, but I would guess it's in that $1 to $3 million range. Probably only counts for like $1 million or $1.5 million on the cap
Yeah.
at most.
Very negligible contract. It's not going to really impact much, but
So, and it does that thing where Brett hates going into the draft with a need at any specific position.
Mm-hmm.
That because you don't want to be forced to draft somebody just because you need that position badly at a certain pick. That's how teams make terrible draft decisions and then end up with guys they would rather have not taken there, and then you miss out on a guy that was really good because you're drafting for need instead of the best available option for you. So that just adds to that. It gives you plenty more extra depth, and now you've got at least the 2 defined starters, probably a third one, and now a fourth one that can help you kind of make sure, hey, even if we do want to look at adding somebody else to this DB room, whether it be at corner or safety, they're not, pigeonholed into which one of those spots it has to be and how to go about it. So it's a good move all around for the overall team building, but I think most importantly for the guys in that room already and the young guys that are in there. So
yeah.
I mean, I think you're spot on. It's a good signing, no risk, all reward. Someone who's familiar with the system. As Kyle's camera decides,
gonna throw it.
hey man, at least it held out for
Held out.
Nicole and
The
Melissa.
comedic timing of it is perfect.
Yeah, it was good timing. It's at least held on for that much.
Hilarity.
Yeah, I think there's not a whole lot more I'm gonna add to that, just other than, again, all reward, no risk. I think Mike was a great piece in this defense when he was here. I can't. I'm not gonna pretend like I followed a whole lot once he left, but it seems like
He was
one of
all
those
right.
guys, like, if you remember when the Patriots used to do this, where they'd have a guy who was like just always better on the Patriots, and then he'd go somewhere else, make some money somewhere.
I think he was back in Tampa last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was. Was he? No, I think he signed a free agent.
He went. I
Was it
want to
Buffalo?
yeah.
It was Buffalo or Houston.
Oh, actually, he was with both.
Yeah,
Both?
didn't the Bills release him?
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah,
But
they released him after he only played 3 games. Then he signed with the Titans. Then he signed with the Bucks.
He was with the Titans and they didn't use him at all. And he was like, "Can I please get the hell out of here?"
Yeah, he was released a week later and then signed with the Bucks again. So yeah, kind of a weird season for Mike, but he's back. He's back. Like I said, in a spot that will probably be much more beneficial than all those other ones. Another Mike Tom that re-signed recently, Mike Pennell.
Who's Mike Tom?
Re-signed.
Mike Tom.
Obviously, a very big staple of that D line. Another guy who can fill in at your nose tackle, because we've mentioned in the last episode, the Chiefs don't really have a nose tackle anymore with Derek Nottie out. So you have Mike Pennell, who's done exceptional in that role and definitely has had good impacts on games. Obviously, a little bit older now, but just another.
Mike Pennell's been like 35 for the last 4 years, so and he looks like one of those people that was like that, like just when he was born, he was already grown. Like he just
he was probably a really big baby.
Like I bet you he's never been carded in his life, but that's good. It's good, and it's to Kyle's point about we don't want to go in, like Brett doesn't want to go into the draft with any like holes on the roster, right? We want to have a high floor and use the draft to raise that floor, bring young guys in who are going to work those veterans out of that roster or out of those spots, and it's a sound strategy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's good to keep on adding familiar faces, which has been a little bit of a theme this offseason so far.
Mike is a huge piece, man.
Yeah.
I don't mean that literally. I mean, he is literally a huge piece, but that D line room had to have answers, especially after they let. Well, they didn't let. Colin got paid, and
Yeah.
then Turk got paid,
Mm-hmm.
and when guys get paid, like Colin got the bag, and like we talked about already on here, I couldn't be happier for that dude. But when you lose that guy, and then they finally made the decision that a couple of us probably would have decided like them to make like 2 years ago, and say thank you for your services, but we'll let you go elsewhere to Derek Doughty, who was great,
Mm-hmm.
a great, run stuffing middle 3 tech, like that kind of guy up the middle for the first few years, and then he got banged up, then he stayed banged up, and then he never really got his job back because the other guys were all outperform. Like when you lose all of those pieces, and you look around and it's Chris Jones, Dana, Karlaftis, and Felix, and there's not really
Mm-hmm.
anything else out there. I guess Ominahew's back now too, which is good, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
none of those are really a run stuffing big boy 3 tech DT, big guy. And you got to have one, and you might as well have a guy whose nickname is the Beast,
Yeah. Right.
and especially considering he played extremely well for you the last 2 seasons now.
Yeah.
Um, and even in the years before when they would, call him off his couch like he's Thor and just like, hey, are you busy? Can you come eat
Yeah.
like 40 snaps a game and just be a giant wall space eater? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
You
He
can do
still does
that
excel
one
at
thing that we ask you to do every
And
year
the
about
other
this.
part, the other reason he's so important is because you overpaid the out of Nick Bolton, so now you have to have somebody to keep him clean in the run game because he can't get off block still. So when that's the problem, you've got to have a guy like Mike Pennell to be able to help your well-paid linebacker
well
do
paid.
his job. I won't say what I really
Good
wanted
thing.
to say. I'll say
Good
well
thing.
paid. But those are all factors when you make some of the decisions you make at the other spots on this roster. And there's certain guys with certain strengths and weaknesses. You have to play to those strengths and weaknesses. So that's a big factor for Mike, is helping Nick Bolton live up to that $15 million a year they gave him.
Well paid. Very well paid. Very well paid individual. Yeah. Yeah, good signing. Obviously, it still leaves the door open, like a lot of these re-signings have been. It still leaves the door open for a big draft edition in probably the first couple rounds. We talked about that in our last episode. Some of the options that will be there at the end of round one that are pretty
Which
intriguing, especially
naturally
at
means they're
defensive
going to draft
tackle.
wide receiver, running back, tackle, offensive tackle, and you're not going to take a DT until like round 6 because we said it now. That's how that's going to work.
I mean, probably, yeah. That's probably how it would go, unless Tom manifests it enough, unless Tom just latches on to some guy. We'll have to see how mock draft warfare shapes out this year. But
Which,
that's good.
speaking of, that's a good thing to mention, Garrett. We will
Good thing
be
to mention.
doing mock draft warfare probably the week before the draft, just to get it as close as possible,
Typically, how it goes. Yeah.
to have it all set up nice and clean. It will probably be done on a Friday live like this,
Mm-hmm.
so that everybody can kind of hop in and participate in the comment section and talk about all the picks and so on and so forth. If you guys aren't familiar with mock draft warfare, we've been doing this several years now,
Mm-hmm.
and each year we've done it, somebody has hit a player that was taken, not necessarily the exact spot or whatnot, because of the way we do the mock draft warfare, which you guys will all see when we get to it. We explain it all out. But Garrett, I believe, has 2 in a row of
I
players
got
that
2 points. I got
he
2 points.
has. He's the selector of those, the first of the way we did it. It's going to be a little different this year because we're going to be doing it as groups and not individually, not just us or us and a guest. So you will see some. We just talked about some. We're talking about familiar faces. That's what jogged my memory. Is you'll see some familiar faces because I think the guys over at Kingdom Cast / Tell the Truth will be partaking in that. I am also working on a couple of other groups from some folks you guys recognize. So it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a good way for Chiefs Kingdom and all the drafty, well, not all of them, but
All of them
a chunk
drafted
of the
people.
draft folks that do this stuff for the Chiefs to get together and kind of do a fun little exercise brainchild, and it should be a lot of fun with all the draft knowledge we've got running around. Speaking of draft knowledge,
Boom! What a great segue. Joining us
What a
now,
great, what a
our
perfect segue.
friend from Kingdom Recon, Mister Randy Ellenberger. How we doing tonight, Randy?
I am doing awesome. Good to be on.
Hey.
Sorry,
You're
my girls said figure skating tonight, and their dress rehearsal for their big spring show went a little long. But I am here and excited to talk the draft stuff.
It'd be like that with the figure skating shows. I've been around that sport a long time myself, being a hockey player and spending far too much childhood at the rink. They're big deals, they're big productions, and they take a lot of time and a lot of little details to go
How do
through.
they keep those ice rinks so cold? Never mind. We ain't gotta get into all that.
It's called a
Hold on,
chiller.
my question, I think I had a more important question for Randy.
Okay.
Randy, when are we going to see you make a guest appearance in the ice skating routine?
That's
Yeah.
a hard no for me. I put skates on my feet probably 5-6 times in my life, and I think the last time was about a year ago, and I don't think I got more than like 3 feet away from the wall. I just had to make sure that I
not silky with it.
could grab onto that. I'm self-employed. I have a physical labor job. Like, I need my body in full functioning capacity in order to make money. So me falling and breaking a hip or my face or arm on the ice is not a. It's not.
If you just fall right, you don't break anything.
If you just fall right, yeah. I tell you,
don't break anything.
I'm too old.
I've never gone ice skating, but I went roller skating one time and I fell wrong and fractured my wrist. So I can tell you
that's because you don't land on your wrists. That's
I'm not sure
the
what
first
videos
thing
now.
they teach you.
first thing they teach you. I didn't go to boating school or whatever you got to do for ice skating, so I don't know.
Boating school. So I'm not sure why my video's not working, but
Your videos were.
It's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great. Maybe you can't see it.
I don't know if you can't see it, but we can see you. So
you can see me. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we
on
can
my
see
screen
you.
it shows nothing. So
Yeah, we can see you. And Randy, we are going to have to ask you to put some pants on.
no, it's Friday.
No.
Pants
That's the right answer.
Okay.
Do we have any more familiar faces besides the two mics? Since we like re-signing mics here, I believe I already mentioned Nazi was tendered or signed. I don't know. They posted a clip of him signing papers. So
was there anyone else since the last time we've mentioned that has re-signed that I missed?
You'll have to forgive me. I was gone.
Signed, but we picked up,
it's true. Kyle has been gone for a couple
We
weeks
did
now.
pick up Mr. Robinson today.
Yeah. And
we signed Darius Robinson.
Defensive engineers, Robertson. We talked about this in the group chat briefly today. Very typical Brett Veach camp body roster move. Listen, I like the kid a lot as a draft prospect coming out of Florida State.
Oh yeah,
he's gotten into the league and just made boneheaded decisions and hasn't lived up to. And he was already a guy that you're like, this is a more potential development pick than anything else. And
then he went to the Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders, Vikings. Well, he's Vikings and then Raiders, and then there's some off the field stuff. It wouldn't even surprise me if he doesn't make it through. He could be one of those first round cuts, but he could also be a guy depending on if he gets his.
He's one of these kids that's just absolutely infuriating to watch and think about, because if you look at him, he looks the part. He's got all the tools in the toolbox. The only problem is he can't get out of his own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only tool he doesn't have, right, that he hasn't shown that he has, is the one between his ears.
Fully functioning brain would be really great for that.
Sounds like a Brett Veach reclamation project if I ever heard one.
I talked about this in the group chat. It's what they do. It's Andy and Brett, and they've done it. Andy will give guys. Andy's the guy that let Mike Vick play football again. Okay, yep. Andy's the guy that let that. There, I could list you probably 75 other guys. Kareem. There's probably in Andy's very long career, I could probably give you 3 digits worth of guys he's given second chances to try to help them. Maybe they did something stupid. Well, I don't know about you guys at 21, 2, 3. Garrett, you're just now going to be 24 here tomorrow. So, but
I don't know about you guys. I was a fully functioning human adult. No,
shit. I never. The one thing
I'm not sure if I remember 24, to be honest.
I was gonna say the one thing I will say is I never got caught. I won't say I never did anything dumb enough to not have problems if I did get caught. It is part of being a young person especially young people with a God, I don't even know what I would have been like if I had a 7-figure bank account at 19, 20, 21, 20. It's insane.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it. I hope, has reflected, and if he hasn't, he won't be here long.
He won't
If
be here
he
very long.
has, then they may get a good player. As we just mentioned, the toolbox is there. It's the putting it all together and not doing stupid stuff. And if he can do
St.
that,
Joe.
you now have another player on that D-line room that can eat snaps, that can give you some production, that can take some of the pressure off of Chris Jones, because he's not getting any younger either. So it's a way to lengthen the lineup. They also have to have 90 guys on this roster.
A lot of guys to have in the roster. St. Joe sorts guys out pretty quick. St. Joe does sort guys out pretty quick.
You're not gonna have to. You don't have to love everything. I absolutely don't condone the stupid stuff he did off the field. You absolutely cannot do some of those things. It is a no-go all the way around. So learn from your mistakes. Take the steps you need to take. Also, I will say this: Minnesota is one thing. Vegas is a different ballgame. Kansas City, you're not going to have a lot of the distractions you have in Las Vegas. You're not going to have a lot of the mess. Now, Minnesota, there's not shit to do up there either. So,
a lot of stuff happens in Vegas.
There's all sorts of fun stuff to do up here.
Yeah, you can go to the Mall of America. That's about what you got. So
Mall of America is pretty fun.
But,
I'll tell you, Mall of America is pretty good. Got Jared Allen's signature there. Got Jared Allen's signature at Mall of America. It's pretty nice.
But like I said, he's not expensive, because they're not paying guys that they're signing.
Yeah, it's also prototypical Spags type. So I mean,
he fits
probably
every
free agents left there. Like, he's not Josh, and that's why
they drafted his teammate instead of him, 4 picks after him, and Josh Kando. And
he's still out there.
He had a lot of tools too, but he didn't put any of it together. So if you don't succeed at first, try again, and maybe if you try at the same university from the same draft class,
that might have been the one they wanted. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. And it could be because I think somebody traded up in front of him to take him, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody
a lot of pre-draft work with Janarius. I was a little I think he was on their radar. Again, the decisions. He's a 4th round pick.
4 decisions.
Like that's early day 3. That's where you get probably, and I wonder if there were some of those characters things, but he had some. He's a very pocket pusher type, at least coming out he was. That Spags likes. Again, big guy. His hands are like 10 3/4 inches. Like his wingspan is ridiculous. Like he's a big dude. And that's where you talk about the profile. He's just got to put it together. And, but we spent a lot of time talking about a guy who they just signed for peanuts on the dollar for a 4th round pick.
Yeah, it's wild that we've talked about him that much. Yeah, so let's get into actual what the main topic of the night was evaluating the Chiefs roster.
But before we do,
familiar
faces, Garrett, was the theme of that segment. So we're going to transition a little bit. And we're going to keep some familiar faces. You're going to see some familiar faces on your screen here in a minute. Oh, that's not what I wanted.
It's me. Hey.
Well, now we see Garrett's face.
How's it going?
And so...
These are familiar faces. You are correct.
If you guys aren't aware, Garrett's birthday, he turns, 12 tomorrow? I mean, 24 tomorrow, I believe.
That is true.
Do I have that correct? It is tomorrow that you turn 24.
Sometimes I forget that I am just the old guy of the group right now.
Well, yeah.
I hate to break it to you. You're all old. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, well, that's okay. You'll get here one day. You can say that. I've got 10 years on you at least.
Yeah.
I've almost doubled him up.
Yeah.
Almost doubled him up. Yeah.
With that said, your mom reached out with an idea to me a couple weeks ago. I took some time putting some stuff together. We got it done. And so I want to take a couple of minutes here and let you see some familiar faces that have a few things they'd like to say to you. So with that said, and then Tom and I will add ours here in a minute. But
yeah.
To the podcast host with the most, Garrett. Hey, Garrett, I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I appreciate you guys entertaining us year-round, and you're a great podcast host. I appreciate you, buddy. Happy birthday.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, country boy from Kingdom Cast. You already know. Giving a shout out to my boy G. What up, G? Happy birthday, bro. I know you like, are you legal yet, bro? I hope so. So let's go get a drink, man, when you come to town. Next time you come to town, I ain't seen you since the draft. You know, shout out to Arrowhead Tom. What up, Kyle? All the guys over there at Kingdom Says Podcast. Happy birthday, bro. Enjoy your day, man. Many more. Thanks for the thumbnails and everything that you do around the community. Appreciate you. Peace.
Garrett, my man, it's your favorite Chiefs fan up here in the Great White North. Little birdie told me the other day that it's somebody's birthday coming up. Yeah. But 24? Really? Damn, dude, you make me feel old. But hey, man, just wanted to wish you a very happy birthday. Been a blast getting to know you more and more throughout doing the Kingdom Says podcast with you guys. So, but just want to give you a shout out. Happy 24th birthday, bud. Here's to many more. Have a good one, brother.
Hey, Garrett, it's Matt Verder. I'm here over at Sports Illustrated. I want to wish you a happy birthday. I've always enjoyed our interactions. I've enjoyed coming on the podcast with you and Kyle and the rest of the gang. I just wanted to say, I hope you're enjoying your birthday. I hope you're getting a little downtime here before the draft and OTAs and mini camp, which is going to be here before we all know it. But you deserve to be celebrated and celebrate with family, with friends. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Don't go too hard, though. And be ready, because soon enough, Chiefs will be on the clock and we'll all be sitting here working till the end of time. But until then, have a great birthday. Have a great time, man. You deserve it. Best wishes.
Hey, Garrett, happy birthday. Happy 24th birthday. I guess enjoy your first drink. You can almost rent a car. I might have a little bit of a spiral that I have to deal with myself. I will try to sort that out before the next time I join you guys on the show. A very happy birthday. Enjoy the, long half of your 20s. I'm going to say the second half of your 20s. You're not even halfway there yet. I turned 30 in December, and honestly, I felt perfectly fine about being 30 until right now. So, yeah, man, do whatever the kids are doing, I guess. Happy birthday, much to all of our dismay.
So, your mom shot over the idea to have some of our friends that we get to talk to and interact with and do this with put together a little happy birthday. We were going to try to have some of them on, obviously later on a Friday night. Not everybody is available to hop in and be guests.
Crazy coordination. Yeah.
A lot of them sent over some clips. Jason Dunn is also, I think he's probably still working on it. We had communicated some, and there's been a little bit of confusion on how to get the video over to us. Once he does, I will get that over to you as well. But took a few minutes and put that together. I apologize. My video creation skills are not at your extreme level.
Pretty good.
But I wanted to take a couple of minutes to give you a happy birthday. I've been trying to come up with something to do for your birthday for about a month and a half, and then your mom messaged me out of the blue, and I was like, hey, that's a good idea. I bet I can get some of that done. So I went together and threw some of that out to some of the friends around the place, and got a bunch of basically everybody I asked, as a matter of fact, sent something in to us or is going to. So wanted to do that for you, tell you happy birthday. I appreciate the hell out of everything. You and I have been doing this now. This will be year 5, I think, at this point.
Yeah,
going into this coming season, because I think we started basically the COVID years when we basically started doing this.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say happy birthday, and I appreciate all of the effort and work, because some of you guys don't know, Garrett and myself have been a part of 2 networks prior to this. One, which was an absolute train wreck, run by a psychopath that we were lucky enough to escape from. The second one was one that we built ourselves with a whole bunch of friends across the entire football community. But Garrett was instrumental on the back end of basically that entire process, from getting everything, edited, uploaded, for all of the Say It Again Network pods,
I did
to
that.
helping a lot of them learn how to produce their own content, because many of the creators we had were strictly, just do this part. They didn't really know a lot of the back end stuff on how to make clips or how to create all this. And Garrett spent a whole ton of his time and effort that he didn't have to doing this stuff. And as somebody, like I said, when I was your age, there's no way I would have had the patience or time to sit down and do the amount of stuff you've done on the back end to make all this operate the way that you do. So I can't thank you enough, and I hope you enjoy your 24th. Tom?
Yeah. So and Kyle gets all the credit for a lot of the legwork. I did try really hard. I
I didn't
reached out
have
to
any
Worthy,
contacts.
and didn't get a response from Xavier Worthy. So I thought maybe I'd try to get a hold of him through his mom. Sent her a couple of messages. I did get a response in the mail. It was a letter, and I'm not allowed to contact her anymore. No, but to echo what Kyle said, man.
Cease and desist.
Oh, that's great.
Anyways, no, no, man, it's been awesome. You do so much for us just in the podcast and in the production, but also just as a friend, man. Like, I think all three of us. I mean, Kyle and I. We've done this podcast together for years now, and we've got to just journey with life. I mean, shoot, I was living in a whole other state, doing a whole lot of other things when we started this journey together. And man, you're just so talented and so generous with those talents, and just really really glad to call you my friend. I get to brag about that a lot when I'm talking to people about the podcast, and also the fact that we're like the tallest Chiefs podcast collectively. We may not have the best numbers, but
for sure.
you put us all, head to toe, lay us all down. We're going to be the tallest, longest podcast out there in Kingdom. So that's okay, Randy. We Garrett and Kyle really carry a lot of that. But no, man, I'm excited for you. Everybody's like, oh yeah, you're old. Dude, you know what's wild? When I was 24, I was a youth minister. That's how different I was, a decade ago. So, dude, enjoy it. Enjoy it while you're young, before random parts of your body start hurting for no reason. And your metabolism
revolt, I swear.
still works well and all that stuff. But I hope you get to celebrate and do it big with your family and friends, and yeah, man. And we'll look forward to maybe some really entertaining group texts or chats in the group chat this weekend. So happy birthday, man! Like I said, just super glad to get to call you my friend.
And also, you do definitely make sure you thank your mom, because this was, like I said, she helped kickstart the idea, and all I did was use the contacts I've already got to go talk to all the people you've made an impact on, and our friends. We're happy to call friends with the show. So thank you again, man.
Maybe your mom.
Guys.
Yeah, maybe your mom can reach out to Xavier Worthy's mom for me.
Yeah, maybe she has connection to Donna Kelsey, so she might, she's met a couple.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was a
wild day.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is a very good surprise. I'm very happy that this happened. Thank you to both you, Kyle, Randy, and Tom, and my mom. Got a shout out my mom too. I know she's listening.
She is watching. The messages I was telling you I was dealing with earlier was me telling her that we were about to go
funny
live
this little
and make
inconspicuous
sure.
Kyle's like, I need to go into the studio. I need to kind of mess around and change the studio. I'm like, yeah, sure, Kyle, here you go.
Suddenly we're interested in doing more things that we normally let you do.
Yeah, that was a good one. That had me.
I had to do something. I knew I had to get a login, and I knew I had to have access to the back end to be able to do that.
That was pretty good. So definitely cheers to everyone. I am legal. I can drink, so I will. I will be doing that.
Responsibly, of course. Yeah.
Well,
all right.
As he takes a drink.
That was way too much talk about me. So let's get back into the what we're all here for, which is the Kansas City Chiefs and the roster situation, fellas. So, evaluating the roster, obviously a couple big holes that the Chiefs are still looking at. What were you guys' biggest, maybe one big one for each of you? Kyle, I'll let you go first. One big hole, maybe the top priority that you still think the Chiefs have on their roster going into the draft.
So I was trying to mess with the Twitter video and feed to try to see if I could get comments into the comment section, if it was going to work or not. So I didn't hear half of that, but because it decided to play random audio in my ears, I'm gonna guess you said something about the spots and to address in the draft.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Again, we're still working through all the technical stuff.
What's your one big position?
I mean, the obvious answer is the obvious answer, so I'll leave that one be for right now. I'll let somebody else who's done a little more homework on that position probably take that swing. I think for me, adding a linebacker more in the Willie Gay mold, or in that style of player, Drew Tranquil in his prime, Willie Gay, not necessarily the overrunning the play portion of Willie Gay, but the physical tools, the speed, the athleticism, the sideline to sideline, but can still play in the box and make tackles. I would just like to see them add some depth. They've suffered injuries a lot throughout seasons at that position, and it's left them in some interesting spots with, who's taking those extra snaps, whether that's a guy like Jack Cochran or whether they've rotated some, like Ben Neiman got significant snaps on this team at one point at linebacker because they didn't have other options. And I would like to see them maybe spend a, late day 2, early day 3 pick on a linebacker to that has, because linebackers don't traditionally get super targeted in these drafts very super high up unless you're like, okay, he's gonna start right when he walks in, gonna be the main dude. So there's usually a bunch of talent. Find me a toolsy linebacker that maybe you can teach to play and teach the system and help from that end. But as long as he can go sideline to sideline and he can diagnose plays, I would like to see them look at linebacker a little bit in this draft at some point. Because the other part is you don't have Tranquil for a ton more time. He's only got a year or two left on that deal. I know it was a 3-year deal and it was a nice deal, but there's going to come a time where you're going to need somebody else to play that position. And Nick Bolton's deal is only 3 years too. Thank God. And only 2 years guaranteed. So there's a need to add another guy to that linebacking group that can eventually come in and play a big time role on this defense in the linebacker position.
Yeah, that's an interesting position, especially, Tom, I know, has been a big fan of Jahad Campbell at potentially the end of the first round, he's been kind of questionable first rounder. Some people have him fall into the second round. I don't know. What do you think about? I like the idea of adding a nice, talented linebacker who's definitely more of a coverage guy. Drew Tranquil was pretty good in that role the past 2 years, but who knows if the continuation is going to be there. Obviously, Nick Bolton has coverage liabilities, so Tom, does Jahad Campbell kind of fill that void in any way?
I like Jahad Campbell. I think he's maybe a little bit more. He's got a lot of athleticism. I think he plays more in that run game and can be a pass rusher.
He's more than Drew Tranquil.
Yeah, I think. Well, he. I mean, not to go Alabama, but just like I think it's a. Who was the player? Reggie Ragland type. Yeah. He's more athletic, but I think that's the type of guy. Now, again, Campbell I think is good in coverage. Like he can do a lot of things. I think he is going to be an early day 2 guy. If they traded up, like if he fell into the second round and they made that trade up on day 2, like I would love something like that, right? Because I think he's also one of the few, like I would put him just a shade outside of like a blue chip prospect. So, some people call that like a red chip or whatever. There's some other linebackers, later on in the class. Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon is an interesting one. One of those guys that, I'm sorry, we're getting into things, but yeah, I agree. I agree with Kyle that like it's one of those things like this draft class, especially as I've been saying, like there may be some picks where you go, wait a minute, linebacker, that doesn't make sense. Your goal in this draft class is get good players, period.
Right.
Because one, it's a tricky class, and we've got like there's a lot of that like kind of those stopgap players. So yeah, I agree. I think linebacker is a sneaky need for this team, or a sneaky possibility.
Yeah.
A couple names that you could kind of look at in that, say, third, fourth, fifth round, guys like Danny Stutzman, Barrett
Mhm.
Carter. Stutzman for a 6'4", 240-pound guy, he runs a 4.5. He's got decent speed. He's not like super twitchy and overly like agile, but he's good enough to play sideline to sideline. Guys even later like Kobe King or from Penn State, or Cody Simon even from Ohio State. Some of those guys you could potentially look at a little bit later that could potentially fill that role, even when you're Golden Domers. Jack Kaiser.
I love that kid.
Yeah.
Any
Again,
interest in-
he's one of those that God, go watch the Penn State game. I think would be my statement on that. That Penn State game, you want to talk about the leadership, the mentality on top of all the player profile, skills and like the Chiefs have always been big. I remember vividly the draft where they took dang near every senior captain they could find on any team they could find. Like all of them were. This guy was the leader of his football team. This guy was the leader of his football team. This guy was the leader. And all of them, like every single one of them. I think that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago now.
It's a good strategy. It is a good
But
strategy.
it was the year they drafted Leo, if I'm not mistaken. It was that draft class.
Yeah, 2022. Yeah.
Yeah, and like there's a value to those guys because they know what the work is. They know how this is work, because a lot more in the college game. Yes, the coaches are more hands-on and they're more, you got to do this. There's less personal accountability a little bit at the college level because again they're young kids. But to be a leader of that group and be the one who's also helping hold teammates accountable shows that you understand what it's going to take to be a professional athlete, and that's a big deal. And Jack is, on top of how good he is on the field, he is definitely a leader personality type in that mold. Every game he played at Notre Dame, like I said, I've watched, you guys know this, I watched nearly every Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
He was a factor in almost every single one he touched the field, and I think he ended up with more games played than any other Notre Dame player maybe ever. Especially on the defensive side of the ball. He's one of those guys that was durable. He did not get hurt. If he did get hurt, he still played. Like, he was that guy. So that's a heck of a call out. And I do think he'll be in the later, like I said, late day 2, day 3, early day 3. That late round 3 to early round 5 range probably would be where I would expect him to kind of fall, just because we talked about linebackers and running backs and how that's kind of not been the drafting thing as of late to take those high in the draft. Somebody may take a swing on him earlier, but I would love to have him.
Yeah, definitely a lot of talent in the linebacker position. There's a couple other guys like Carson Schwessinger, who's been floated as like a day 2 pick.
That's not an NCAA 25 player generated name. That's a real person.
Yeah,
Back from UCLA, and I was just trying. My thing with him, like, I was just trying to find what he ran his 40 in, because I don't think it was spectacular. It wasn't god
I
awful.
thought he tested really well. I just thought he was
7-ish somewhere.
He's got a fun name to say, Schwessinger.
Right.
He's like no way to not say
25. Like, he looks like he'd be that rangy sideline to sideline guy, but it looks like he's missing just a little bit of that top end speed. But I do like that kid. He's a gritty player. He was kind of a one year wonder though.
Maybe he didn't run the 40. Let's see. We're gonna do some digging right now.
Live reach. Also, Demetrius Knight, another pretty highly rated prospect, another potential
Also
day 3
very
or day 2 guy. Just some options. There are definitely a lot of options that the Chiefs can look at. Probably later, I would say, unless one of those top guys really sticks out to him, I would say, yeah, look to a day 3 guy to be added to the linebacker room. But definitely need to get some depth, especially with, just the kind of behind Nick Bolton and Leo Chenal and True Tranquil. You don't really have much. So if one of those guys down, you're in trouble.
That's the reason Jack is an interesting name, because I think he would easily come in and be able to understand the entire defense and do some of those things from the Nick Bolton perspective of, if Nick were to, God forbid, suffer an injury or whatever, he could come in and still maintain that defense. I know they have Tranquil wear the dot, and I know Drew is plenty capable of doing it too, but he's not exactly as physically imposing as Nick Bolton can be at points, and he's not as good in the run game. I think Jack could give you a little bit of both options. Could not going to be otherworldly in the coverage game, I don't think, but would probably still be decent enough to be okay. And like I said, if he's backing up Nick Bolton, you're not really worried about drop off in the coverage game. So,
because I think Cochran was really the only other guy on the roster that's got some experience.
Yeah.
He's a special teams dude. He's a pretty good special teamer. But if
we're
relying on Cochran,
Cam Jones last year too, but I don't know what happened to him.
Defensive snaps, we might be in trouble. So
yeah, definitely room to add and upgrade at that position, especially if your worst case, your fourth linebacker is your main special teamer, and so I'm sure he'd be pretty good at special teams too. Whoever you get in there. Okay, we're gonna I'll throw you, Randy, for the next position of need that you were targeting for the Chiefs.
We talked about this a little bit last time I was on, that, with the additions and stuff that the Chiefs have done in the past few weeks, like we've set ourselves up to be in good position to go in any which direction, really, when it comes to the draft for best player available. Yeah. But Kyle alluded to, he's thinking about left tackle. That is obviously the first thing that comes to my mind. But kind of a fun one, just because I've been watching a lot of these dudes here the last couple of weeks, is the tight end position. Right now, we do have. I mean, we still have Travis. We still have Noah. We got guys like Peyton Hendershot on the roster still. Robert Tonyan was just brought in. We drafted Jared Wiley last year, who I was super excited for Wiley to see what he could do, because he's built in that Travis mode. The body type is almost identical. Wiley had a little bit of quarterback history in his past too, so I was super excited for that. But there's some of these guys that I really like. Like, obviously we're not going to have a shot at Tyler Warren. That guy's a unicorn.
Probably not. No.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Is there a potential that a Colston Loveland falls to us at 31? I don't know if he makes it that far, but there's a lot of these guys that are really good, that are going to be available second, third, fourth round. One of the enigmas to me, is the wild card, Harold Fannin Jr.
I knew you were going to say his name.
Yeah, I knew that.
Just because he's that Swiss Army guy that you can literally line him up. He's a true H-back, kind of like throwback-ish position dude. But I really love Mason Taylor out of LSU. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, big fan of him too. And even guys later, probably 6th, 7th round, guys like Fedone from Nebraska. So there's a lot of really intriguing tight ends in this class. Is it a huge need for us? Probably not, but we're going to have to really address it if Wiley's not going to be able to come back from the knee. I love Noah Gray. He's like the Dollar General version of Travis Kelce. He does a lot of those things really well, but is he really going to be the heir apparent? I don't know. But just one of those kind of not the typical position we were probably looking at, but just something I've been kind of thinking about the last few days.
If he is the heir apparent and can even be close, they got him for packing peanuts compared to some of the contracts he could have gotten.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the Harold Fannin Jr. thing is interesting because I watch way too much of the other tiered football games that those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night games.
Yeah, Thursday night action and all that.
Those are the days that Bowling Green plays.
Yeah, and he's a Bowling Green, the opposing competition, not necessarily otherworldly. But that dude is a scary athlete when he gets the ball. And he's a difference maker. He was a huge difference maker for that Bowling Green team. He was, if you go look at what he did at Bowling Green, you're like, was that a career or was that that can't be one season, right?
He had a monster year last year, but he played all over the place too. He was
And
attached tight end. He was fullback. He played running back at times. He was out in the slot. Like, he was everywhere.
and they can use him in any position, like you said, really that they want to. He could be your big guy at the goal line. He could go down and play outside on the wide receiver line and be an outside like they do with Travis, where they line him up on the bottom of the top of the formation all by himself, and then you got to try to guard that dude one on one, and that's not a fun matchup for anybody that's a DB. So
Right.
I don't think he's, again, don't take this as we're comping him to a Travis, but he presents matchup problems for a defense in the same way that Travis presents matchup problems for a defense. And they're not going to treat him like Travis Kelce for the first couple of years. He's going to see single coverage. He's going to see linebackers and safeties and so on and so forth. You can get that in the later rounds, that third or fourth round. Yeah, I'm all for that kind of a player, because Andy will find something to use him for. They will find a way to get. It's what Andy does. He gets his talent with the ball, no matter how or where they play, what position they play, or where they line up. So
yeah. Seems like Andy's been wanting the H-back back more often. I mean, they're running like the full house formations and stuff like that more often recently. It's like I could see a versatile guy.
Defense has got smaller.
Yeah.
Fannon's one of those guys that I brought up a long time ago on one of the first times, some college guys just to kind of look at. And my thing with him is that you need to find an offense that's going to be creative enough to highlight his skills, and that's Andy.
You're not going to just stick him at the end of the line and say, "Okay, bud, you're going to live here the whole time."
You got to scheme some things for him. You got to put him in some different positions, and that's just kind of like that's a big lump of clay right there for Andy to play with.
Yep.
Yeah, especially preparing for life after Travis Kelce eventually, which is probably going to be next year. It's and Jared Wiley coming off the injury, so it's not, you're not sure how he's going to look once again. And then Noah Gray, you signed him to a good deal last year, but even still, it was only like a 3-year deal. So it's you definitely have a lot of room for the future. And I mentioned on the last episode that the post Travis Kelce era of the Chiefs tight end room is probably more of a tight end by committee as opposed to what we've seen, which has been Travis kind of dominating most of it. So I can imagine if they get another guy, even the guy I like Mason Taylor a lot. I think he's exactly what Andy would like to do with a tight end. He's very fluid. He's definitely a little bit bigger than Harold Fannin is, but real smooth route runner, just really good. I mean, obviously the NFL lineage with his dad, it leads to be some good things, I'd say. So I would look in that direction, but there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in the tight end room or in the tight end class this year.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, Tom, you are up next on the positional need for the Chiefs. Who do you got? What do you got for us?
Okay, so let's acknowledge, we all know that tackle is in play. We know that that's a concern, right? That's probably, I think, if there was one position we went, if we could figure that out,
that would be great.
In this draft, that would be it. I'm gonna swerve a little bit. We talked a lot last time about defensive line, and we've talked about defensive tackle. I think defensive end is another. I think defensive line overall would be a bigger need. Gary, I was thinking about your comment from our last episode about how there's never been it's never necessarily been a big priority for Steve Spagnuolo to have an interior guy. Obviously, he inherited Chris Jones, and then I look at this edge class and I go, it's very likely we see some investment there. There are so many guys that fit what Spagnuolo likes and could be there at 32. And I know, and I can already tell, I already know, I won't name names, but there are a lot of people in the Chiefs Twitter sphere who tend to lean more critical of picks. And it feels like I could already assume, another pick at defensive end, and they just drafted Felix, and and it's just not that simple, right? You have to keep taking swings, especially at premier positions like defensive end. George is going to get a decent paycheck. He's an ascending player. Felix took a step last year. like exceeded my expectations. I was worried Felix was going to be a complete waste, but I down the stretch, playoff time, he showed up. Excuse me, past my bedtime. But I think it would not surprise me if the Chiefs went defensive end in the first round. And Charles Omenihu is on a 1-year deal. Mike Dana, I think he signed that 3-year deal. And it's probably more like a 2-year deal. And he's a good player, but like you could upgrade. The ceiling could be higher there. And this could be the class to do it. So I would stack the needs as offensive tackle 1, defensive line 2, and then getting into like after that, I would say, yeah, those are 1 and 2. Like
Those
in
are
terms of the shallowest spots on this team. I think there's a conversation about wide receiver and running back.
I think
and tight end, all those skill. But again, you can never have enough skill players.
Mhm.
And so all those. But what they've done, as we've talked about, is they've hedged their bets against, again, trying to keep the floor high with this team, and they've done a pretty solid job of that. So when we get into the defensive line conversation, this is one that I didn't watch a lot of his tape because I thought for sure he's just, and he could. It's just so weird. It's hard to get a beat on this one. Oh goodness, terrible time to blank on a name. Georgia, Michael Williams. There you go.
Michael Williams.
Yeah. So some people are like, that's a top 5 guy, and some people are like, dude, what? Weird use at Georgia. Had like huge, awesome flashes. Athletic freak, but production wasn't there. But just recently, like, there's some conversations like he might be there a little bit later. He could be there, or even if he's in the 20s and they move up for him, right? That would be he does give me some Justin Tuck-esque vibes that, Spags really likes. Again, very much a pocket pusher, not necessarily a speed rusher. And then so it could be a situation where we have some of these really talented edge rushers who are going to be ranked pretty high on these boards, who are sitting there late in round 1 that they could make a move up for, or they could take one that falls to them. So yeah, excuse me again. Holy cow!
I will say briefly, Tom mentioned Felix. For those keeping track, we just did a birthday thing for Garrett. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is a year younger than Garrett is currently. So he's a 23-year-old entering his 3rd season. I know there are certain radio hosts whose names and some of the Chiefs Twitter that I will not mention that have already written him off as a bust. They did that 6 weeks into his 1st season when he wasn't starting at edge, which is absolute asinine behavior. But hey, here we are. This fan base has always struggled with setting proper expectations. It's been an Achilles heel for this fan base and for folks for a long time. He was always a developmental piece coming out of K-State. And when I say developmental, he wasn't bad at K-State, but he also didn't have a ton of work at K-State, and he was also extremely young. I think he played mostly he had basically one full-blown season where he was the starter while he was there, and that was his last year there. He was always going to take a little time, but as we've talked about, it's a lot of it when they look at these guys is tools and what fit they are. And Felix is a guy that you mentioned. I was number 1 on the what are we doing Felix train there for a while, because he was killing me with the inability to do the simplest thing on earth, which is leave when the ball leaves. Like the ball is snapped, you can go now.
Yeah, time to go.
And he struggled with that.
You gotta count Mississippi's.
You saw significant improvement in it last year. You also saw him develop considerably about being able to do that those Frank Clark like things where he could set the edge. He was solid in the run game. He didn't just let people outside, or he would crash down and make the play in the run game. They even kicked him inside some on certain areas and certain downs where he was rushing from the D tackle ish spot, because we've talked about this about 1,000 times on this show too, that Spags likes those amoeba NASCAR package different looking fronts where he can put whatever guy anywhere he wants on that line to make your offensive line have to figure out who's going to go where. So with the Felix thing, let's wait a second before he's completely garbage and not a good player. And he made significant steps last year, as Tom mentioned, but they do absolutely need to add to that room, mostly because Mike Dana is going to probably be gone after this year. He signed that deal last year. He played last year, going to play this year. It's a 3-year deal, but he's basically zero guaranteed money after this season. So if they can find an improvement at that spot, they don't have to pay him again to keep the floor, as Tom mentioned, at a certain level. So I would. The nice part about what Brett did this free agency season is there's not just an unbelievably glaring hole where they're pigeonholed into taking a certain spot at 31 or trade it when they trade up or trade down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the D-line group, especially that edge, I'm glad you brought it up, Tom, because that was one of the other ones I was going back and forth on when I was debating between linebacker was the edge room, because they need another edge, even if Dana and George have great years, to give them a third option at edge, to give them a somebody that can play either the run snaps or the pass rush guaranteed snaps.
Yeah, this was definitely going to be my group, but I figured I was going to leave this one up for Tom, so I went with the curveball with tight ends. But Tom and I have talked a few times about this, that this edge group is pretty top heavy, with like the top, I'd say top 12 guys being legit, what I think dudes that could come in and play and help you out right now, and then it falls off significantly. So it's if this is a direction we're going to go, it has to be in the first 2 rounds. Otherwise, you're going to end up waiting to round 6, 7, trying to find some kind of developmental guy, and you're going to end up with, a guy like that. I really like this guy out of BYU, Tyler Batty. I think he's a hidden gem, but he's going to be a round 6, 5, 6, 7 guy, somewhere in there. But if we don't go defensive end in the first 2 rounds, it's a pretty significant drop off until those later rounds. Tom and I love Landon Jackson.
Yeah.
We've talked highly about that dude quite a bit. But there's a few guys in here that are going to be in that second round that are going to be available, that could come in and play and push for some time and get some production. But yeah, it's got to be a first 2 rounds or you're going to wait.
Yeah, especially with all the options and Spags type DNs that we're seeing in this year's draft, it seems like, it's almost a guarantee that they'll probably go somewhere in the first 2 days at D end. Last position I'll bring up that we've kind of glossed over a little bit, obviously the left tackle position, and we've talked about left tackle a lot as obviously the main point of need, mostly just because of last year's struggles at left tackle. I would still like to highlight the need at left guard as well. I think it's almost been we've almost just kind of accepted that it's going to be Kingsley Suamataia at left guard, and he's just going to be the starter.
We haven't. Y'all have.
Some people have. Yeah, some people have. Tom is part of that group, apparently. Still just a big question mark. Still a big question mark is if he's going to be good at that position or not, if they're even going to play him. I mean, I'm thinking that they're going to play him at left guard, but who knows if the draft might dictate something else. It's still questionable. It's still, that whole left side of the line is questionable to me still. And it's interesting that they haven't signed any other guards really in free agency so far, which I would almost feel like you should, even with a young talented and a guy you're really hopeful for in Kingsley to be your left guard. Still feels like they should have signed more depth or something, which is really peculiar to me. But when you look at it, it's, if I look at some guys like we've mentioned, Zabel a lot as a guy who played tackle a lot, obviously. Gray Zabel at NDSU. but obviously also played inside at guard and at basically every position. So I don't know. I just look at a guy like that where it's like you could draft him and he just elevates the floor of either position that you might have a question mark at. He's obviously not a prototypical Andy Reid tackle, but he's a very proven guy who you could maybe get away with putting at tackle for a couple years and then find a different option. Or if you don't like him at tackle, you compete with him at guard. I don't know. It's just interesting. I know it's not the deepest guard class necessarily. There's some intriguing guys that you could get in the first 2 days, or maybe you add another late round guy. Obviously, they added a lot of guards last year in CJ Hansen and Hunter Norzad. So just another thing I'd like to throw out as a questionable, as still a big spot of question for me is tackle, obviously, but still left guard's not necessarily set in stone either, in my opinion.
There is a guy that we could throw out there. I mean, we talk about the left guard, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. Like if he played a different position on the offensive line, would probably be a little bit more valued. But he's a dude. Like he's like one of those guys. It's not going to be. I think he's a very safe pick. Like you're getting what you get with him, but that's going to be like your 10-year NFL starter, probably above average production at that position. He's going to keep your quarterback clean. More of a pass protector than run. And he also kicked out and played left tackle at Ohio State this year when Josh Simmons went down and did better than I think people expected him to. Very much a left tackle, a guard. We talked about this last week on the podcast. I am still take Willie Lampkin on day 3. Fullback, guard, center, Willie Lampkin. Willie Lampkin is a 5'11", 290-pound guard who played for North Carolina and survived. Actually,
that man's
did well.
a bowling ball.
Yeah. I watched. We got into it. I think with that guard position, there's a handful of guys like day 3 that you could get. In fact, they're all like Charles Grant, William and Mary.
Boy, I was waiting for my turn to throw this dude out there.
Yeah. Chase Lund from Connecticut is another one. I haven't had a chance to watch too much Connecticut tape for whatever reason. Or UConn. It's a really tough school to get film from.
Tape. Yeah.
So you guys talked about Zabel. Unless somebody puts him in a stretcher and grabs both wrists and spreads his shoulders out longer than they are currently, he's not playing tackle, at least not for Andy Reid, because he's only got 32-inch arms. Because if he doesn't have at least 33-inch arms, Garrett, they don't play them at tackle in Kansas City. They do not do that.
It is one of the just measurables that it just drives me freaking insane. And Will Campbell said it best.
I know
from LSU said it best in his.
I heard his interview. It was a very well spoken thing. It does not matter to Andy Reid. He does not give a damn.
It baffles me to this. It will baffle me to the end of time because you're telling me that this distance right here, this is going to cause you from not taking a dude who's arguably the best overall offensive lineman in this draft because his arms, it just doesn't.
I didn't say they wouldn't take him. I said he wouldn't play tackle. That's a separate thing.
Most absurd thing in my brain.
I could see him at guard because he has 32-inch arms.
But
I know how Kansas City does things, but we've been following and covering this team in the way that they draft too long.
Andy Heck can't develop a guy with 35-inch arms either, so maybe he should try 30.
Maybe you got to try the opposite. Yeah, maybe.
Sir, you are preaching to the choir about Andy Heck and his lack of development skills.
Right.
Randy, I just want to say I could refer you to a couple of ex-girlfriends who have validated to me that 1 inch does make a difference. So,
some people it does. Yes, some people.
Yeah, some people really, they don't want you to come up short. And Andy Reid is me.
Arm length.
Size
arm length. Wingspan.
Yeah, well, depending on who you are, some people call that an arm, or a third leg. Anyway, I mean,
Anyway.
you can ask Chris Jones. He put it on display for the whole world.
Jones,
Are we going
about that, yeah.
to tag on the podcast again? Damn it.
So the one position that none of us, I mean, Tom briefly said something, but none of us really discussed that I think is, as Garrett brought up a great point with the guard position of it being overlooked, because with Tooney gone, the right side is the right side at this point. It's Creed, Trey, and Jawan Taylor, and y'all can cry into your Twitter comment sections about it being Jawan Taylor, but it's gonna be he's
One
been
more.
more than fine at right tackle. Everybody's screaming and throwing a fit about that contract, but if you look at the tackle market contracts right now, that contract's actually pretty
Doesn't
decent.
look bad.
And he's been well above average in pass blocking, which is what they got him for. I wish they would stop trying to run behind him because it doesn't work, but that's a separate thing. They didn't get him to be a run blocker. He's not a road grader. He's an in space right tackle. The running back position, though, is one that there has to be some discussion, and there has to be some serious look at what to do at that spot. I like Pop. I really do. He's a good kid. He's a solid guy. He runs hard. He's not going to break it on you. He's not going to hit a home run on your head. He's not going to see the holes that are sometimes open, right? Because
That's
people,
it.
what people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, as for running backs in the NFL, guys, it moves really fast, like really, really fast, and those holes are only open for a very small amount of time. You know, like Randy was talking about the small amount of time, that inch or so, or less than an inch. You saw, and watching it on the broadcast view versus watching 22 and knowing some of the technique stuff, like a defensive lineman will flash his head to one side or the other, and that's the indicator for whether or not that hole's going to be open for a lot of these running backs. And I don't think he always sees that as fast as, even Kareem Hunt does. Now, Kareem isn't Kareem when Kareem was here the first time, to where if you flashed and you were wrong, he could kill you and take it to the house. Because, he's a damn near 10th year in the league running back at this point. He's an old guy now. He's not the same burst. So you don't have a game changer, home run hitter, speed guy at running back. And Andy's always done running back by committee anyway. So and also you don't want to really pay running backs unless their name is Saquon Barkley a whole ton of money in free agency or in re-signing guys. So with Pacheco being a 7th rounder and now entering year 3, I think it's next year that he's going to be available, be due up for a contract. It's year 4, right? Once that's contract year.
Well, he's going into year 4 right now. Yeah.
So then going into year 4, he may not be here next year.
Yeah.
Because there will likely be a team that's willing to pay him if he plays well as he has the last couple of seasons. There will likely be a team that pays him $7, $10 million, $12 million or whatever it is. And I don't know that that's something the Chiefs want to budget for. And this running back class has like 30 dudes in it.
This is the best running back classes that I can remember.
There are so many running backs. Because there are so many running backs, that likely means you're going to have a guy out there in that day. They have a couple of day 2 picks. They have a day 3. Like in that day 2, day 3, people will have an aneurysm if it's day 1. But in that range, unless it's, of course, Ashton Genty, and then everybody will be
he
fine.
Somehow falls to 31.
But like legitimately, they've got to look forward, and even this year at adding some dynamic ability to that running back room, because they have a bunch of serviceable guys at running back. But unless you're expecting Elijah Mitchell to come in and change everything, which Jerick McKinnon did a lot of work like that on a similar kind of scenario where he came off of being hurt for a couple of years in San Francisco, and then he came in and was a huge piece and carried some workload. That's great, but that's not a guarantee, and they've got to have some more dynamic ability coming out of that run game, because you watched it in the Super Bowl. If you managed to watch that whole game, they couldn't run the ball. They got to get more production out of the run game. They have to. And And some of it is Andy play calling, but the other part of it is giving him someone he believes in fully that can do that. And I'm not telling you he doesn't believe in Pop or Kareem, but there are limitations to both of those guys.
Fresh legs.
And it's time to give Patrick another 2018, 2019-ish Kareem Hunt.
Right.
Where you can
27,
have
18,
1,500 scrimmage yards from that running back position.
Yeah.
You can have
We need another rookie year Kareem. I'm telling you, rookie year Kareem Hunt. Oof,
oh
boy.
god, that
Feed
offense
families.
was
Feed
ungodly
families.
because of it. So
There are two guys in this draft that I think are going to be available at us at 66 that remind me of prime Kareem's rookie year, and that's Caleb Johnson and my boy Scatterman.
Sorry.
Scatterman and Johnson, they're both that.
sorry, who besides Johnson?
Scatterboo.
Ataboo.
Oh, he's not dynamic. He's a horse, but he's not fast.
Have you? Okay, so he ran a 4.5 at his pro
He
day.
ran a hand time 4.55. The other one was 4.6 something.
Okay, you go and you legitimately go and watch Ataboo play.
I watched him
for more than a 3-minute.
Pretty good.
I watched him bust Texas's ass. I'm not telling you the kid's not good. I'm telling you that at the NFL level,
saying he's not dynamic is weird because he's got probably the best contact balance, vision, breaking tackles.
Great. Is he going to run away from anybody? Or is he going to get chased down at
the
20?
Hold on.
He's going to run away from guys.
Let's meet in the middle. He has dynamic contact, power, and balance. He's not explosive. He's not. So, like,
he may not have that trackster long speed, but he's got great burst in the hole. He's got great vision. He's not going to get taken down on the first shot, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Now,
I don't dislike Cam Scatterbo. I just
throw is suspect.
Well, that doesn't work for Andy Reid.
But all rookie running backs suck.
I know. I agree with you. My thing is, like I said, though, they need a game changer type. And I'm not telling you he's going to do it every game, but he's got to be able to not get chased down 20 yards past the line of scrimmage. If he does make it through the line and beat the whole thing, he can't be getting run down by safeties and corners and shit like that. That's what I'm talking about when I'm looking for the running back position. Maybe I'm alone, but
Tom, what do you got? Tom, what do you got?
I don't know what to do with my hand.
Not this. I'm going to make this statement, and it'll be pretty neutral. Running backs, like speed, will always kill with a skill position in the NFL. You can compensate for that. For example, we have all just sang the praises of rookie Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Same speed.
4.62. 40-yard dash.
Speed as Caleb Johnson. Actually, Caleb's a little bit faster. Same speed as Scatterbo, and they're essentially the same guy.
Very similar. I do see a lot of Scatterbo. Or I do see a lot of Kareem Hunt and Scatterbo.
Here's my read on Scatterbo. And I think this is – I don't think I've heard this comparison anywhere else. And someone's going, oh, you're saying that not because he's short, but –
is it because he's white? Oh, no, not because he's white. Not because he's
Is it because he's white, Kyle?
MJD had some wheels though. Like he was a.
Who are you going to compare him to?
No.
I don't know. I just when he said
Danny Woodhead. Who is Rex Burkhead? Who is in your
Peyton
mind?
Hill? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Chiefs fans. Nobody have a heart attack. That was a joke
for 1 year.
No, yes. MJD did have wheels. He ran a 4.39. But when Scottaboo, like, he loves contact. I will also say I'm kind of with Kyle in the sense that I worry about not necessarily even the long speed, but the short area agility. And it's one of those I could look silly saying this out loud a couple years from now, but I think his style is awesome. And it's hard to criticize him because I like him as a player so much, but I could see a world where he struggles to be consistently a playmaking threat. I think he could be a very good consistent running back, but in terms of that home run speed or home run ability, like what we're talking about, I would not be mad if they took Scadaboo on day 2, for the record.
Valid.
I wouldn't either. I'm not exactly what I was thinking of.
Here's the thing so we're talking about long speed here. So I'm pulling up some running backs here in this draft class. Now we've all agreed that this is a pretty deep running back draft class. It's a really good class. There's not a burner really in the group. Here's Genty's a 4.4, Hampton's a 4.4, Caleb's a 4.57, Trayvon Henderson, who is widely considered one of the fastest guys in this class, is a 4.4. Judkins is a 4.48. Devin Neal's a 4.58. Scadaboo is a 4.55. Like, these guys, they're all in that kind of 4.4 to 4.6 range. Like, there's not a burner really in the group.
That's fair.
Another interesting, we talk about comparing guys to like a rookie Kareem Hunt and type of that mold. Another guy who had a lot of success in the Patrick Mahomes era at running back, who don't really get talked about a lot, Damian Williams, who obviously had that one really good year. And you look at him, he definitely had a little more speed to him than Kareem, a little smaller, a little more finesse to him. Is there a guy that's closer to that body type and that kind of style of runner that you might, and to Kyle's point, it'd be someone that you'd be more interested in, like more than like a Kareem Hunt type, or how do you weigh those two as far as what kind of fit you'd want in the offense right now?
So
because obviously we have Kareem Hunt types right now.
I got to experience both of the Ohio State running backs for far too much in the national championship game this year.
They're both dudes. I love them both.
Trayvon Henderson is a guy that I would like to see in a Chiefs uniform, honestly. He
gives me Jamal Charles vibes.
He has playmaking ability. He has that I can turn something or nothing into something ability also. Judkins is fine, but if I had to pick between the two, it's Trayvon for me.
I agree.
The other guy is Oklahoma State's that's Hampton, right? Amarion.
North Carolina.
Sorry, North Carolina. Who's the Oklahoma State
Ollie
kid?
Gordon.
Ollie Gordon. I like Ollie. I don't know that he's gonna be in that same mold as Trayvon though. Hampton is another, and Hampton, now that I'm jogging my memory on, for whatever reason I had him in an Oklahoma State helmet instead of the North Carolina one, but those two guys give that. They're not going to they're not burners. They're not 4.3, 4.2 guys, which at running back is hard to find anymore. There's not really anybody that's that damn fast at running back.
I think Tootin this year was the fastest. What, a low 4.3 this year?
So
kid from Virginia Tech.
But the playmaking ability, Hampton, I watched at now that you said North Carolina, I'm remembering why I was thinking Oklahoma State, but it was because I was flipping between those bowl games and kept mixing up which team was on which screen. But he and Trayvon, to me, now Scadabo has all the physical tools to not suck at pass blocking. I just don't think he's had a lot of experience or work in it. But both of those guys played especially Trayvon, played in a pro style system. You have to protect Will Howard, because if you don't, he's gonna give the other team the football. And he's got a different look to him from the game film and the game stuff. Like I said, I did not enjoy much of the Notre Dame Ohio State game when he had the ball in his hands. He's a problem. He presents matchup problems for the defense, and he has that nothing into something ability where even if somebody gets near him in the backfield, he can do things a little differently. But once he's out, he's extremely hard to bring down in space. He's like you a little bit, and I will never call anybody Jamal Charles, because Jamal Charles is a unicorn type guy. But he does have some vibes to him of that same kind of, and people forget Jamal wasn't touted coming out of Texas as some superhuman. He was very good at Texas, but he wasn't what he was in Kansas City, which was a freak when he got up here. So like I said, there's got to be more oomph to that running back room.
I agree.
And I just don't know how much. Scadabo's great. I just think you've got a couple of guys that kind of do some of that same stuff where they're fine, and they'll hit the hole, and they'll get to that, and they'll get you a couple extra yards inside. But once they get 15, 20 yards downfield, I don't know that they're getting away from anybody or as dangerous in space as a guy like Henderson or Hampton is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just bounce to, Judkins being the other piece of that Ohio State juggernaut run game. A lot of people just kind of dismiss or maybe forget that, he spent a couple years, at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Had almost 1,600 yards and almost 1,200 yards.
Kid's very good. Judkins is no slouch.
And so, and they're both very similar in body size. And you think of Judkins as a little bit more powerful and not as fast, but I think their 40 times are 0.05 apart. So yeah, those guys may pack a little bit more on the explosive punch. But like we mentioned before, like this running back class is stacked, and there's a lot of dudes. And you got to think about some of those guys that you can get on day 3 as well, like Mr. Neal out of Kansas. He's
like
a really good running back as well. Giddens from Kansas State. Like there's some homegrown dudes that you're
Harvey,
Ollie Gordon. You're going to be able to get these guys in rounds 3, 4, 5.
A lot of intriguing names. Yeah, definitely so many names. It's going to be good. Like we're definitely the Chiefs are almost certainly going to get some kind of investment there, I would guess, just because of the future uncertainty of the position. Obviously, Pacheco on 1 year left on his deal. Kareem's only back on a 1-year deal. Elijah Mitchell's on a 1-year deal. So there's a pretty solid chance they draft at least someone to get in there and compete. And obviously they've had a lot of success with late round running backs. So yeah, that we will see. We will see if any other major movement happens between now and the draft that changes these predictions. But that's where the Chiefs roster stands right now. I really don't see them adding anyone too big that disrupts those, unless it's a big trade, which I'm still don't rule it out. You never know. Brett Veach is always cooking. So that is going to do it for tonight.
I know we got to get out of here. I'm just going to say this because we talked about a lot of running backs, and you guys saw my reaction when Randy said Caleb Johnson. I will tell you now, Caleb Johnson is a guy to pound the table for. We're going to leave it at that because we got to get out of here. We're at an hour and a half. But if you're bored this week, Caleb Johnson,
big Caleb Johnson fan as well. We got a little sidetracked there with old Scatter, but yeah, I'm a big Caleb Johnson.
That's my guy. Yeah, take us home. Let's get out of here.
All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for rocking with us tonight. Joining us for an hour and a half long conversation about draft prospects and the Chiefs. It was always a fun time. It's
happy birthday in 32 minutes, my time zone.
Yeah, your time zone. Yeah. Unfortunately, you were all late because I had a buddy who lives in Japan who already wished me happy birthday an hour or two ago.
He's cheating. Yeah, that's not
exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. But I popped up and I was like, why did he wish me? Oh, yeah, he's right. Yeah,
he's
already
12 and a half hours ahead of you or whatever it is.
Exactly. So, it was a great night. It was a great night. I enjoyed tonight a lot for a lot of reasons. And I can't appreciate all the people on the screen right now for everything that they do, and everyone behind the screen at home watching and listening and joining along with all the fun that we do. We really appreciate you all on this journey. We've got a lot more fun stuff planned before the draft. Obviously, mock draft warfare, as Kyle alluded to, is going to be a fun one this year, and post draft as well. I think we have a lot of big plans for post draft, which is going to be cool as well. So
we also have a giveaway running right now with our guy Corey.
Yeah, if you go check out the Artist Chief Corey04 on Twitter, you can get a chance to get some cool prints by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Kingdom Says, over there. Also, you can find us at any podcast platform that you use, Spotify, Apple Music, etc., etc. Follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's it. We'll be out of here. We'll see you guys sometimes next week for more draft talk, probably. Almost certainly more draft talk.
Maybe we'll do some mocks next week and see where we're at right now before we get too close.
Everybody loves a good mock, So
can't get enough.
I'm an addict. That's everything we've got for you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the King.